Welcome to Pennsylvania Oddities. Today we're in Upper Kennedy's Valley in Perry County, exploring what is perhaps the creepiest place in all of Pennsylvania. This is Hickory Grove Children's Cemetery, which is the final resting place of dozens of children, many of whom died nearly 200 years ago. Now some of you may ask, why did the early residents of this place create a graveyard for infants and children? The answer is because this was also the site of a schoolhouse that dates back to the 1850s. And research also indicates that a church may have stood on the same site long before that. As for this portion of the valley itself, records indicate that a mill was erected not far from here in 1782. This is the only grave marker featuring a name. It belongs to the infant son of John and Jane Crull, who lived just up the road in the 19th century. Jane Crull passed away in 1911 at the age of 88. Jane and her other 9 children are buried elsewhere, which may suggest that this grave belongs to their first child. If this is the case, it would place the date of this burial sometime between 1842 and 1845. So what caused the deaths of these children? This portion of Perry County is very remote. Even with modern transportation, the nearest hospital is over an hour away. Before the automobile, residents of Kennedy's Valley would need to travel by wagon over the rugged mountains to Blaine or Landisburg to fetch a doctor. Scarlet fever was rampant through the valley during this era. In fact, several schoolhouses in Perry County were temporarily closed because of scarlet fever outbreaks during the 1880s and 1890s. This disease strikes suddenly and kills quickly. In many cases, death occurs just 2 days after the first symptoms appear. To this day, there's no vaccine for scarlet fever. According to the World Atlas of Epidemic Diseases, scarlet fever was a leading cause of death in children up until the early 20th century. In 1900, mortality rates declined significantly when it was discovered that the disease could be treated with injections of a serum made from horse's blood. Right next to the cemetery is the site of the Crull School, which stood from 1850 to 1920. One of the first teachers was Mary Morrow. Records show that Miss Morrow was paid a salary of $15.50 per month. One of the last teachers was Mr. Noonamaker, who ran the school during the early 1900s. His salary was approximately $30 per month. By the 1920s, the automobile had replaced the horse-drawn wagon, and a decision was made by the Tyrone Township School Board to close the Crull School. In 1926, the school board awarded a contract to Frank Cleland to transport students of Kennedy's Valley to other nearby schools. Perry County, which had been created from a portion of Cumberland County in 1820, was still in its infancy when the first burials were made at Hickory Grove. Sadly, because of poor record keeping, the names of the children buried here will probably never be known.